What's going on Facebook? How are y'all doing today? We have another episode of the Late Night Show with Dr. Kojo. We have a topic that it's a very popular topic, at least on my page. Right, we don't talk about ADHD in women too often, but on my page we do that because it's my page and that's what we do out here. And I've been posting a couple of videos about it. This week I just posted two today. I got my assistant to drop two videos about it today, and I posted one yesterday. And I had a lot of questions, so I figured we'd make the show topic about that today. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it. But you all know how we start the show. I gotta know where you all are checking in from, so we can go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name is Kojo Sarfo. We are checking in live from Los Angeles, California, and I'm excited to be your host. Now I'm happy that we get to talk about this. So let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, Amy. Oh, you're diagnosed at age of 20. Okay, I'm happy I was able to help you out. Ohio in the house. Daniel, what's up? Missouri in the house. What's going on, Jessica? Let me see where people are checking in from. Beth says you're late. Beth, you're right. You're right. Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. You are right. Hold me accountable. Hold me accountable. I don't care how many followers I get. Continue to hold me accountable so I can get 10% better each and every day. Toronto in the house. We got Boston, Massachusetts in the house. Chicago in the house. Vancouver in the house. Amanda's been waiting for this topic. Okay, let's get into it. Chicago, Michigan, Kansas City. Becky, yes, we will talk about that. Massachusetts in the house. Chicago. Alberta. Someone says as in live. Let me discuss this real quick. Someone said as in live. Boo. I know. Boo. Lame. Corny. Tomato. And what? Let me talk about it real quick. So after you post enough videos, they give you an option to put ads in your content, right? And it's another way for your favorite creators to monetize and continue to bring in revenue so that they can push content out for you. But sometimes people don't like it, and if you want to skip, that's fine. No harm, that's fine. But we will continue to post the content out here for free because people need to know about these topics, especially ADHD in women. But let's see where people are checking in from. Toledo, Philadelphia, Georgia, Sarasota, Florida, Oregon. Okay, awesome. I was diagnosed at 22, and I wish I was diagnosed early in life. Well, Haley, look, that's a good starting point. That is a good starting point, Haley. I'll leave your comment up here so we can talk about it a little bit, and let's go ahead and talk about it, right? The funny thing or the interesting thing I will say is, I've look, I post a lot about ADHD, right? So before I can go online and I can do my little dance, and I can have fun or do my song or skit, I have to make sure that that the information is evidence based, right? Because I can't be a clinician, a board certified clinician, right, with a blue check here, giving you all the wrong information, right? So I have to go and do my research, and as I've been doing my research as it relates to ADHD, I've realized, I've seen the evidence, and it states that, for men and women, right, when they get help for ADHD, the outcomes are similar, right? So guys don't do better than women. Like once you get diagnosed and you get treatment, you tend to do equally as well. Now, here's the thing, right? And anytime someone says, here's the thing, you know that they're going to hit you with something. But here's the thing, women tend to get diagnosed later, because a lot of times the symptoms are not so obvious. Women tend to be more so inattentive, right? So when you look at inattentive side of ADHD, you might have, the daydreaming. The daydreaming is probably, in my experience, just from me, Kojo, seeing patients and, talking to women who have had ADHD, the daydreaming is probably the most prominent thing that I've seen in my personal experience when dealing with women with ADHD. But you have daydreaming, you have disorganization, you have forgetfulness, just to name a few. And sometimes it's hard to catch these things, right? So people normally never get that help until they're met with like some type of stressor where, you reach your breaking point and you're like, all right, at this point, I need to go and find somebody. I need to get some type of help, and that's why I feel like a lot of people, not just women, but a lot of people have been receiving help and being diagnosed with ADHD during this pandemic, right? Because so many things happened. Maybe you were laid off of work, or you had issues at work, or you had issues in your relationship, or issues parenting, or issues with your parents, and you reached your breaking point where you're like, all right, Something's got to give, right? And that's normally how women who get diagnosed later in life get diagnosed, from what I've seen. So that's why it's important to, spread this information out, so that way, if somebody got diagnosed at 35, maybe they could have got diagnosed at 16 or 17, but maybe some things were missed, right? So if they had got that diagnosis at 16 or 17, maybe they would have gone to college, right? And maybe they wouldn't have, dropped out of college and then got back in, and then dropped out of college and got back in, and then found a job and then skipped and went to another job, and you went to this job and you quit and you took a break and you had a kid, then you went back to work, and like that whole cycle, and if you got to 33, 35 and you got diagnosis and you got the proper help, I'm happy, right? And I wish we could have helped you out before that. But for the generation that's coming behind us, can we catch that same 17-year-old girl before she becomes a woman at 35, right? So that's what a lot of this content is aimed at. And Colleen says, yes, that was me. I'm going to get into the comments in this section in a second. I'm going to get to the comment. I'm going to get to the comment section in a second, right? And Rachel said that's exactly what she did. And keep in mind, Colleen and Rachel, I have no idea who Colleen and Rachel are, right? I'm just narrating a story from my personal experience from former patients or friends of mine who are women who have ADHD, and the stories tend to be very similar. So I think if people are having a lot of these same experiences, we should start to pattern recognition and say, okay, where are we dropping the ball, right? Where are we dropping the ball? Can you be successful, still be ADHD? Yes, yeah. That's the whole point of this channel. That's the whole point of this channel, to show that that's possible. And let me go ahead. I have an article here, you all. It's not every day that I bring the article to y'all, but I want you all to look at this article from Dr. Patricia Quinn and Dr. Manisha Madhu. It's an article from 2014. Some of you all are my part of my community that really likes to look at the evidence to see where I'm getting the information from. So I'm gonna drop that in there for y'all, and you can check it out. But in this article, right, a couple of conclusions came. I'm gonna try and cut to the chase and give out the meat of it, right? So let me see. Did my comment come through? Yeah, all right, perfect. So the clinical points of this article, right? Let me read a couple for you all, and then we're gonna hop into the comment section. Women and girls with ADHD have a distinct symptom presentation, with internalizing symptoms such as inattentiveness being more prominent than externalizing symptoms, right? So they're saying that the internalizing symptoms are more prominent than the externalizing ones, right? So a lot of times you see more so of the inattentive side as opposed to the hyperactive and impulsive side, because we can catch that, right? Normally with the males, like with a teenage boy who is like rowdy and loud and talkative, we can catch that. But with women, we get into masking and all kinds of different things that you do to fit in. Sometimes it's hard to catch that, right? And there's some women's symptoms are more likely to be overlooked by knowledgeable informants, right? Which would be somebody like me, and they are less likely to be referred for diagnosis and treatment. And I strongly believe that, like in today's world, because if you're a woman and you think you have ADHD, if you don't get referred, a lot of people are having to go online on the Facebooks, on the Instagrams, and the TikToks, and a lot of people are watching a video. And I know because I look at the comments. A lot of folks are watching these videos, and for the first time, they're like, "That's me," and that's the catalyst. That's what gets them to go to see a provider and get that actual help. So we've really reached the day and age where TikTok is saving lives, Facebook is saving lives, Instagram is saving lives. So that's pretty cool, and I'm happy that I get to be a part of that process for you all, if I was able to help you all in any way. And then let me get to the second clinical point. Females with ADHD may develop better coping strategies than males with ADHD, and as a result, can better mask or mitigate the impact of their ADHD symptoms. We know that, right? And the third clinical point, missed diagnosis of ADHD in women and girls may occur when anxiety or depression presents in association with ADHD, because symptoms of ADHD may mistakenly be attributed to the coexisting condition, right? And we know that for adults with ADHD, a lot of times they present with anxiety and or depression. So if you look at it from face value, you'll say, I think they're anxious or depressed, right? So a clinician who doesn't do a thorough assessment might, say, oh, well, yeah, I think you're, blah, blah, blah. Here's Zoloft or antidepressant, and have a good day, right? But we know what to look for in a provider. We need somebody who is going to take their time with us, hear us out, ask us questions and screen for all these different things, right? And the last point here, and then I'll get to the comment section, right? Greater awareness on the part of healthcare professionals regarding the specific symptom profile of ADHD in women and girls is necessary for proper diagnosis and treatment. Essentially, what that's saying is that we, right, as the clinicians, and even me, like, I'm practicing like this, like I'm slowly stepping away and going more into social media, but I still have my credentials, right? So as board certified mental health professionals, we have to do a much better job of picking up some of these things, right? We have to have our little goggles and our glasses on. We have to be on the lookout more, because if somebody doesn't have TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, or they didn't hear from a friend who had a similar experience, they may not know to go get the help. So we as clinicians can do a much better job, right? That starts with, like, I could do a better job, right? And then just listening to our patients, I think that goes a long way. So those are some clinical points that I wanted to read out, give you all the meat of it. And then, I want to hear from you all. That's why we're on here and we're on live. I want to hear from you all. So, I like to go into like my long 20-30 minute rant to start the live, but this live is for y'all. So I actually want to hear from you all. And let me, let's go ahead and kick it into high gear. So this is pretty much Q&A. Is there a difference between bipolar and ADHD? Is there a chance for misdiagnosis there? Yes, there's a difference between ADHD and bipolar, and there is a chance for misdiagnosis. Anybody can make the wrong diagnosis, right? With ADHD, there's no manic episode, so that's a distinguishing feature. And it can be hard to tell the difference sometimes, but that's where it helps to have a good clinician. They are the ones who, they go to school to learn like the nuances, of how to diagnose somebody. All right, let me get depression, ADHD. Beth, to some extent, I do believe that you're right. I feel like ADHD um probably makes it more likely for you to be depressed, right? All the things that come with it, being behind, being overwhelmed, being frustrated, having relationship issues, right? If you feel like ADHD may mess up your relationship, right? You're gonna have that regret, right? We see a lot of regret in depression, a lot of helplessness, a lot of hopelessness. So sometimes these things go hand in hand. Not all the times, but sometimes. Let me see. Smash. Boom, boom, boom. What's the benefit of a formal diagnosis? It's so hard to find a place that can evaluate me as an adult. But I wonder if medication will help me. I'm also a mental health professional. I'm pretty sure that I have it. All right. So, in my opinion, right, this is just Kojo's opinion. So, just take that for what it is. The benefit of having a formal diagnosis. I think having a formal diagnosis is helpful because you no longer blame yourself for, all the things that you're doing or the things that have happened to you, right? Because you might say, oh, I'm just so forgetful. I'm dumb. I can't do anything. I can never get anything right. And then when you learn that you have an actual condition, which makes it hard for you to focus, or to, better yet, to regulate your attention to where you can effectively go from task to task and knock out things and go along, with your day. Once you realize that it's a condition, right? And not only is it a mental health condition, but in my opinion, I believe it's probably the most treatable mental health condition, right? Like we have, not to say that some people with ADHD who have tried everything might not struggle, but I do believe it's probably the most treatable mental health condition. So when people fall through the cracks, right? When women fall through the cracks and they don't get the help that they need, for decades, like I think that's an absolute tragedy. So I think it starts with us, right? And even me, like even as I branch into social media and I do these skits and comedy and all that stuff, it's still, I believe it's still my responsibility to shed light onto this, right? To help people get that help. ADHD and substance use common. So Rihanna, that's a nice way to spell Rihanna. Uh, um, your name is distracting me, right? But it's a nice name, Rihanna. ADHD and substance use is a common. So there's actually studies that have shown that getting help for your ADHD in the form of medications have helped to cut down on risky sexual behaviors, right, and reducing things like STIs, and they've helped to cut back on car accidents for teenagers, right, and they've actually helped to cut back on uh, risky behaviors as it pertains to substance use, right? So yeah, sometimes ADHD and substance use disorders do go hand in hand, and sometimes not getting the help for your ADHD could manifest itself in, sometimes you may want to self medicate, and I don't blame people who do. Like I would wish that you didn't, right? But I don't blame people who do because you may have felt like that was your only resort. Good comment right there. Someone said, "Thank you, Rihanna. Thank you, Rihanna." I guess we should give Rihanna the first love of the show. Rihanna, let me give you a love of the show because that was a really good and insightful comment. Give Rihanna a love of the show. Right here. Is it just me, or do women with ADHD take on too much in life? It seems I'm always doing something for someone who is not me. Ooh, okay. Samantha. Okay. All right. I feel like sometimes, good question. I don't know if I have the correct answer to this or the answer, but sometimes when you, with ADHD, you may have a tendency to start things and not finish it, right? So you might have a tendency to overcommit, like you're committing to certain things because maybe you haven't really thought about how big of a commitment this task would be. So you're like, oh yeah, I got it. So people know, oh, dang, I'm gonna call Samantha up because she got me, right? So it's like you'll say, oh yeah, cousin, I got you. I got my brother. Like you feel like you have all these things, but maybe it may come from impulsivity, and you thought, okay, I can just get this done, or you're used to starting things and not finishing it, so you don't mind starting these things even though you don't finish it. So it could be a couple of different ways. I'm not sure the exact answer, but nice comment here. I hope people got value from that, right? I hope so. And let me see. Self medicating seems to be pretty right. Arashi, is that how you say it? Arashi. I have a foreign name, so I do my best to try and pronounce everybody's name correctly. I don't like to take shortcuts. So if your name has like 14 letters, I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna do my best to pronounce your name. But Arashi, uh, yeah. So when it comes to, and we need to talk about ADHD and addiction, and we just need to talk about addiction in general. And I don't think anybody wakes up and decides to become an addict, right? But when people are in pain and they can't find, either they have no access to help, and they're looking for resources to look and to look and to look and they're searching, they can't find it. Sometimes people might choose the route to self-medicate, So once again, that is another tragedy that I wish we can, and I know we can do something, right? So we should start with the education, and hopefully over time, we can make a bit of a difference. Let me see. Women with ADHD learn to be more than what they are because they had no one there for them. Robin, okay. I could see this happening, Robin. I could definitely see this happening. And sometimes I feel like, at least in my experience with the patients who I've had, who are the females with ADHD, sometimes they're like the go-to person for everything. They're superwoman. They just handle everything. And sometimes you always ask, or you wonder, who does the go-to person go to for their own mental health, right? And I'm somebody who in my life, like I've been the go-to person for a lot of people, and I had to learn, that you can go get a therapist, you can go get a counselor, you can go get a psychiatrist, you can go get people to put things in place for you to make life a little easier, right? Where do you go to get referred to a specialist? Ooh, all right. Y'all asking some good questions. Let's get it. Where do you go to get referred to? So a lot of times the most linear path for people is to go to their primary care provider if you have one. If you have a PCP, you can go to them and let them know, hey, I still have to make that skit where it's going to be called How to Talk to Your Doctor About ADHD. I have an idea for that skit. I just need to execute it. And I might just do it with Gabriella or somebody I've been making content with. But to answer your question, a primary care provider can refer you to a mental health specialist, right? So a lot of PCPs are actually comfortable diagnosing and treating ADHD. So a lot of them will actually treat you right then and there, ask you questions and diagnose you. But if they're not comfortable, a lot of them can refer you to a mental health specialist and say, hey, I think this might be going on. Let's go ahead and send you to, someone who specializes in psychiatry and mental health and get you situated, right? So a PCP is a really good starting point. Is ADHD ever really outgrown? Melissa, with another good question. From what I've looked into, right, it appears that the majority of people really do not like outgrow ADHD, right? And sometimes you learn to cope, especially women who have ADHD and they're not diagnosed during those formative years. You're gonna learn how to cope and live with life, right? Because at some point you have to like fend for yourself, right? So you learn to cope and you learn these different things. But for the majority of people, it doesn't really you don't really outgrow it. And the symptoms that tend to stay are some of the more inattentive symptoms, right? Which is what women with ADHD ironically kind of struggle with. The symptoms that are more so externalized, right? Like the impulsivity and the hyperactivity. Those types of things are kind of caught at an early age, and you receive treatment, or even if it's not caught, they tend to get better as you grow older. But some of the inattentive symptoms are the ones that kind of hang around, they linger, and it frustrates you to the point where you either ask somebody like, hey, what's going on, or you find a clinician in your area. But yeah, the majority of people don't really outgrow ADHD. Good question. Good question. Let me see. Being a mom of four probably doesn't help. Right, right, Megan. I don't have any kids, but I have one dog, and it's hard to focus. So yeah, being a mom of four could make it. Yeah, it could make life hard. Um, Let me see. So many good comments here. I never learned how to cope because I was like, oh wow, wow. Okay, so Nicole, this is another way to look at it, and this is your personal experience. So I respect it. I think you need to have a safe space to talk about your experience. I never learned to cope because I was diagnosed early. Okay, okay. So uh, I'm still a fan of like diagnosing and getting people the proper help as soon as possible. But then that puts me in the mindset of okay, once you get them the proper help, let's also teach coping skills because they may not have developed those. So I actually like this. I didn't really even think about this, Nicole, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you a love of the show. Nicole, I hope things are better for you. And let me see how to overcome feeling overwhelmed and shutting down. Rachel, good question. And I think like I'm gonna make a shirt soon, right? On my merch store, of course, like I got the KS, and that'll be in the back of the shirt. But I'm gonna have a shirt that says "Action defeats anxiety." Right? When your to-do list is piling up and you have a lot of things to do, you're gonna be naturally overwhelmed and frustrated, right? And ADHD kind of lends itself to allowing you to have the longest to-do list, right? And it might be tough to prioritize things, but doing something small can be a big thing for you, right? So what's the smallest thing you can do to either get started, or what's the smallest thing you can do to give you some type of momentum to knock out those bigger tasks? So that's how I would start off with that question right there. Sane says hello. 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 I don't know what context you said that hello in, but hello. Um, hello. I teach this to my preschool coping and oh Nicole, yeah, shout out to you. I can tell that you're a fantastic um, pre-K teacher. Let me see. Coping skills are yeah. So the book I'm writing right now is we're talking a lot about coping skills. It's gonna be a mental health workbook, right? So we're talking a lot about coping skills, and I'm putting myself in the mind of like myself when I was what 8, right? What would I have liked to have learned growing up, during those formative years in school? Because they don't teach you about coping skills. They teach you about like Jupiter and then Venus and Pluto. I don't know. I don't know. He's really ADHD. Uh, Tanya, yeah. So ADHD presents with a lot of co-occurring conditions or comorbidities, or just other conditions that come with ADHD a lot, right? And a lot of times you see anxiety and or depression. And ADHD is one of those conditions where, and autism is the same way. Somebody asked about autism, but it went past me. But ADHD is one of those conditions where it's not uncommon to see somebody with ADHD and something else, right? And ADHD and maybe, you know, anxiety, ADHD and depression, or ADHD and personality disorder, ADHD and eating disorder. So that makes the treatment like harder, right? Makes treatment harder. All right, let me see. My ADHD popped off around. Let me say popped off. What do you mean by popped off? How is ADHD popped off? Or is that when you start the show? Um, the RSD. Michelle Marlene. I actually made a video. I think I posted on Facebook today about the things that people say to you when you have ADHD, right? You know, maybe calling you spaced out, or saying you're too loud, and the way that this impacts your self-esteem, right? And we know that with the rejection sensitive dysphoria, it can be difficult to keep your self-esteem intact when things really hurt for you, so it's important to challenge those negative thoughts with positive affirmations. Like you have to say, I would like for my community, right, and formerly my patients, to say things to yourself that if you said out loud, it would sound arrogant, right? And you don't have to say it out loud because it's all about confidence here. We don't have to be arrogant. We stay humble, but say things about yourself that if you said it out loud, it would sound arrogant. But say it to yourself. Say, hey, I'm the best painter here. I'm really good at doing this. I'm really good at doing that. I'm a kind person. You have to boost yourself up. Sometimes that helps with those negative thoughts that just kind of come, and it's hard to, get it out. When will your book be released? Amanda, thank you for answering that question. My book will be released right now. It looks like it's on track to be released at the end of the year. It was pretty cool because I saw they put my name on the Simon and Schuster author portal, and it's my first book deal, so it's pretty cool. But it looks like we're on track to get it out by the end of this year. So, if you all are praying people, please send some prayers that I can, get in with the editor and we can really come together and make this product a really good one. Because I don't want my name to be attached to anything that is not bringing value to y'all. So, I'm very excited for that book to come out. Rama says, I'm in my 40s and I think this is me. It could be you. Now, I don't know because I don't know you. But I think maybe getting professional help and then figuring out where to go from there could be helpful for you. Let me see. Ashley, I've recently discovered videos and now I think I have ADHD. Is there a symptom checker, or how do I know to reach out to my healthcare provider? Am I so all right, Ash, this is what I say. If the thought crosses your head and you feel like you have something, right? There's nothing wrong with identifying with a certain condition. But if you for you to leave this comment, like you're thinking about it, right? You're thinking about it. So if you're thinking about it, if I were your brother or something, I'd say, hey, Ash, it might not be the worst idea in the world to see if you can get professional evaluation. So that's what I would say. Fern says, talk yourself up like you would your best friend. Oh, I like that. That's good because we hype up other people, but sometimes it's hard for us to hype up ourselves, right? And sometimes like when it's other people's birthdays, we're like, hey, but when it's our birthday, or maybe this is me, I'll be like, hey, yeah, thank you, I appreciate y'all. But sometimes we have to make it okay to hype yourself up, and for people who are interested in this, I'm going to have a live just dedicated to this. I've done this type of live before, but I haven't done it here on Facebook, right? But we've talked about this many times before on Instagram and on TikTok, but this is new to y'all. So we'll have a live where we discuss, the stimulants, right? And the non-stimulants. Stimulants are first line for ADHD, but it gets complicated. So sometimes we might use non-stimulants, and it's a little different for kids and adults. But this is a good question, and this needs its own show, right? When can we get a hold? Amanda, I'll let you know when. What are you talking about? My first book? Because if you're talking about my first book, That's on Amazon. You already won. It was an Amazon bestseller a couple years ago, so you can check that out. And the new book comes out at the end of this year. Um, Let me see what people are talking about. Victoria, I appreciate you. Yeah, look, I feel like I'm fortunate. I feel like I feel lucky to be able to come out here and do this. Right, this is where I'm headed. Right, this social media thing is this is what I'm gonna do. So as I get more into this space, I'm just kind of feeling out what people have questions about, and then what's the best way to answer it. Right. So sometimes I will just put the camera in my face and just talk, but you gotta get crafty. You gotta get crafty because people want the information, right? Alicia, I thought y'all would never ask. Mickey Ficky. Let me do this right here. So y'all can see the custom made. Yee! Yee! You like it, right? The custom made scrub top. You know, I appreciate it. I'm not affiliated with any scrub company. I want to have my own name on everything. So this is, I appreciate it. I like it. I like it. Let me do this again so we can get back to proper level. My dog is barking for no reason. Don't pay any attention to my dog. Melissa, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Leilani, shout out to Leilani. I appreciate you. You know, I'm happy I get to be a part of this community. What's wrong with Zoe? Oh my gosh, the guys are in town. My brothers are in town, and their friends are here. And Zoe's just being a spoiled little dog that she is. Tips for handling ADHD and anxiety for a stay-at-home parent without medication. All right, so Lily Gray, the first thing that I will say is, of course, I gotta legally say this, but like this is the right answer. I think ADHD, especially when you're staying at home, it's hard to work from home nowadays, right? You're a stay-at-home parent, and just by being a stay-at-home parent without ADHD, that's hard, right? So if you throw in the ADHD, I think that's enough to warrant like reaching out to like a clinician in your area, and that would probably be the best thing that could be helpful for you. Now if you're talking about educational tips, in general that I can give to any parent who's struggling with ADHD and they don't have medications, or maybe they don't want meds, right? Sometimes people don't want meds. What I would say is reminders are helpful. That's what I mean. I do that myself, right? You have sticky notes and just writing stuff on the sticky notes. And for me, I'll like if I don't have a sticky note, I'll find wherever I can write things on, and I'll just say, "Hey, reminder to do boom boom boom," or put a sticky note on your refrigerator, right? Because if you have to do something in the morning, you might forget. Put it on the refrigerator because you're gonna make breakfast in the morning, right? So when you go downstairs to open up the fridge, you see that reminder there, right? So with ADHD, you kind of have to have I think this is Dr. Russell Barkley who said it, but you have to have like a prosthetic environment, right? Like the same way somebody who may have lost a leg, right? They'll get a prosthetic leg, and then now they can walk again, right? You have to have this prosthetic environment where you set yourself up for success. So pattern recognition, like how are things with you and your kids? Like, is one of your kids good at this, and they can help you with that, right? Or what works for you? You have to really create a world that works for you. And the foods that we eat are important. I've cut out processed foods to give me more energy, as a way to help with ADHD. Some of those brightly colored cereals, can make you more irritable. There's studies on that. Exercise like seems to help out with everything, but exercise is like one of the best things that you can do. Taking frequent breaks throughout the day can be helpful because as a parent, I mean, just as a parent, you got to take a break, right? Because you're having the parent, like you never get to check out from being a parent. Like from the moment you have a child, until the rest of that child's life, you're always going to be a parent. You never take a break from it. So just taking a break throughout the day to give yourself some time to just like catch your breath, that can go a long way, Lily. So hopefully that helps out. I hope it's helpful, Lily. I hope so. I hope so. Libby, I like the Attitude magazine. I've been featured in there a couple of times, and I like reading through that website. Let me see. My Peloton has been. Oh, okay, okay. Well, this is not advertisement for Peloton, but exercise is helpful. So if that's how you can get it in, I love it. I think that was a good purchase for you, Candace. So, those out there. Oh my gosh. Michelle. Let me give Michelle a love of the show. I have an Alexa. I got one in this room. I use this room for, you know, getting on live, making videos. I primarily see patients through this room. I got an Alexa in here. I got an Alexa in my personal room. I got an Alexa downstairs. I think I have an Alexa on the first. I have an Alexa everywhere. You know, and that's like a big part of my life. Like I'll say, hey, set this reminder for this time or that reminder for this time. And those things help to keep me in line, you know. So this is actually, it's not a advertisement for Amazon, but this is just something that I use. And it's very helpful for me. Reminders on the phone, Carlene, reminders are so huge, you know. Let me see for sure. Reminders on my phone. Oh, for sure. Remember the text in. For sure, bro. Yeah, no problem. But reminders are helpful. Like I have, I'm trying to see how many reminders do I have today. I'm gonna give y'all like, today's what, Wednesday, March 9th. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. I got 10 reminders for the day. And the majority of them I actually did. So yeah, reminders are helpful, you know, and that's how you create that prosthetic environment, right? Where, you know, for somebody else, you know, who is maybe neurotypical might not need these reminders. They may just remember, you know, but we might need reminders, and that's okay. That is okay. Let me see. I think let me see. I legit forget. Ooh, Lindsay, this is a good one right here. There's no shame in putting a reminder on your phone at 1 p.m. or whatever is convenient for you that says, hey, stop and take a break and eat. Literally, you may have to like parent yourself and say, hey, stop and take a break and eat, because you know that around 1 p.m. is when you get hungry, but you haven't stopped, you know, you haven't given yourself time to slow down to eat. So nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. ADD and pregnancy. I thought, did I have Dr. Sasha on here? I think I had her on. Yeah, I had her on here. We spoke a little bit about ADHD and pregnancy and fluctuations and hormones and how that makes your you know, your symptoms a little harder to manage. And that's something that is good to know, you know, based off of the fluctuation. Sometimes while you're pregnant, sometimes your symptoms might get a little better. Sometimes after pregnancy, symptoms could be like right after could be a time that you might be struggling. So I think getting uh, a good healthcare provider. This is where it pays to have a mental health specialist and then also OB on the same team, right? Like you're the quarterback, Emily, right? And then you have your wide receivers, right? One wide receiver is, I hope you like football because otherwise this won't make sense. But one wide receiver is your OB, and your other wide receiver is your psychiatrist or your psych NP or your psychiatric specialist who can help with the meds. And there's a lot of reasons why it's difficult, right, when it comes to meds during pregnancy, because we don't have that many studies. So it's kind of tough to figure out what to do. So it's more so an individualized plan between you and your providers. My ADHD was terrible after pregnancy. Okay, so hello, postpartum. Well, Jenny, Jenny, I'm looking at your picture. You got your kid in the picture. Y'all are small. It looks like you got a cute kid in the picture. Hopefully, you're able to get the help that you needed after that. Let me see. Jamie, I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Let me see. I needed to. Ah, Saidet, as I said, Sadet, Sadet. That's a pretty name, by the way. I've never heard that name before. But yeah, yeah, it might be a time to get something to eat. And Sadet, you just reminded me. It's time for us to take a water break. So I'm gonna go ahead, like I do every live where we do is water break. I sit here, my arms folded. Give you some time to get your water or whatever beverage you have. I really just like water for the most part. Whatever beverage you have, go ahead and get your beverage, your water. It's time for a water break. You know, water break. It's time for a water break, y'all. And to that, hopefully you can get something to eat. Hopefully you can get something to eat. All right, water break. Everybody ready for water break? All right, Leilani's ready. All right, guys, time for a water break. Cheers. That's what happens when you try to be smooth with it. Water break. Cheers. 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 Yeah, Austin, I agree. Water is free. Yeah, and I like things that are free. If it's free, you're gonna get my attention for the most part, depending on what it is. All right. Uh, Party foul. Yeah. Cheers. Cheers. Where's some? Ooh, Sayarisha. Good question right here. What are some specifics to look for when choosing a mental health professional? We're in a day and age where you can, like, if you're in Nebraska, right, and you're looking for a doctor in Nebraska or a therapist, right, you can go to Psychology Today, or you can search doctors near me, or, therapists near me, psychiatrists near me, right, and you can pull up, you know, a mental health clinician, right? And I think we're in a day and age where you can start by Googling your therapist, counselor, psychiatrist, psych NP. Google them and see like their credentials. Are they board certified? Make sure that they're legitimate. Do they have a social media presence? If that's something that you care about. But I want you all to, like, let's say you meet that provider, you should look and ask some questions like, what's your philosophy? Like, how do you practice? What's important to you? Do you have experience with people like me, right? Let's say you have a white provider and you're a minority. You can ask, do you have a lot of experience working with people from, my community? Ask some of these difficult questions up front. What's your practice style? These things will help you develop that rapport with them and make sure that you have somebody who you feel comfortable, like, sharing certain details, things about your life. You feel comfortable talking to them about those things. So, good question. Really, really good question. Um, ooh, uh, so a lot of times, like brain injuries, right, or concussions can affect your mental health, right? They can maybe lead to mood disorders, right? Depression, anxiety. It could make concentration. It could worsen it, right? So, not to say that is going to automatically make your ADHD worse, but it could potentially do that, right? So, take it on like a case by case type of thing. Candace, this is a good one right here. Excessive spending. So, I think with the impulsivity that comes with ADHD, a lot of times, maybe this is the best thing that I have for it. Hopefully, this helps somebody, and maybe you all can clip this thing out, and then maybe put it as a clip anywhere. But when it comes to excessive spending, what is like a dollar amount to you that when you spend over that, that amount of money, you're like, should I have spent that? Think of any number, right? Let's just say $200, right? You're like, $200. If I spend over $200 on a certain thing, I don't know if I want to keep spending $200 on certain things every single day, right? So let's say you want to go buy a new camera, right, or a new microphone for your computer, costs $200, and then you already have one, but you want to buy a new one. Have a trusted friend or an accountability partner. Send them the Amazon link and say, hey, I want to buy this camera. It costs $207. And I got the money for it, and I think I can, I think it's gonna be helpful for me. But what do you think about it? Do you think that this thing would help me out? Is it going to benefit me? And get feedback from the people around you, and you may come to the conclusion that, oh, this camera is, or this microphone is similar to my current microphone. I don't need to spend $200 on this. Not I've saved myself $200, right? And then I have something that works, right? So having an accountability partner who can make sure, who can help you out, who knows you, right? Who can help you make better decisions when you think you might be making an impulsive decision, could be very key, right? Yeah, right. So I like that. I have buyer's regret all the time. Well, you know, that could be, it could be room for improvement where you could say, all right, I might want to start looking into a couple of different things before I start to make these big purchases, right? Impulsive eating. All right, so impulsive eating. Now, you have to have a very nuanced conversation when you talk about impulsively as it comes to eating, right? Because it could be, oh, I saw this, I'm just gonna eat, right? Or it could be maybe along the lines of binge eating, right? Or disordered eating. So you have to have a very nuanced conversation when you talk about that. But it is hard to do things in moderation sometimes with ADHD. So I think that's something that if you feel like you have a hard time with eating, or emotional eating, impulsive eating, or binge eating, with ADHD, there's like a higher chance of sometimes having those co-occurring conditions like an eating disorder. So I think it's very important to bring these things up to your mental health professional, and let them know, so that way they can tailor their care specifically to you, right? Uh, let me see. I need to eat healthier. Well, you're doing your best. Someone said didn't eat healthier, but doing the best. Sarah says talking to my partner about the money I spend gives me anxiety. So Sarah, okay, all right, so that goes back to the point that I made, and I don't know if you're saying that you get anxious talking to your partner about how much money you spend because you're embarrassed that you spend so much money, or you just don't like having that money conversation with your partner. Either way, maybe that example that I gave, it might not be the best for you, but maybe you could leave something in the shopping cart, right? Like, when you go on Amazon, you have like a wish list of things that you want, or like a cart, right? You can leave it in the cart, and then put a phone reminder and say, I'm going to come back tomorrow and see how I feel about this. And then after sleeping, maybe I'm like, oh, I don't need it. Or after you think about it, you're like, this thing would really be helpful for me, right? You know, so depends on the person. Let me see. Uh, Busy moms. Uh, Stormy, when you say online treatments, what do you mean by online treatments? I'm a little confused. Online treatments. Let me say. How do you deal with people saying turn off your brain, or you just think too much, relax? All right, Janine, it depends on the person, right? If this is your spouse, your sibling, your child, somebody who's like in your life that you feel like, oh, it's worth it to explain to this person, you know, my mental health or my situation. Go ahead and let them know, hey, it's when you say turn off your brain, I can't just shut it off, right? But to somebody who just comments like online, or somebody who, you don't have that close of a relationship with, maybe you can explain to them, hey, it doesn't work like that, but you don't want to get, I would not, I would imagine that you wouldn't want to constantly get into a habit of having to explain things over and over, to certain people, because it could burn you out, right? So just keep that in mind. It could burn you out. Let me see what people are saying. Um, if you if you don't buy it, you'll get a dopamine. Yeah, literally, sometimes it is for the thrill of it, right? And if you're able to be somebody who you can maybe monetize off of your thrill of something, like let's say you're a YouTuber and you review all these products, and you get this impulsive urge to buy a $2,000 camera, right? But then you write it off because you're an entrepreneur and you're a YouTuber, and you end up making money off the camera because you take great photos. Then you turned your impulsivity into a strength, right? So it depends, right? But if you're spending impulsively on things and you're running out of money, then if it's hurting your relationship, then it's like, all right, it's about what outcome do you want, and how are your actions either helping you get there or preventing you from getting there, if that makes sense. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Eden, I'm actually like stepping away from seeing patients and I'm going more to social media. So I figured out that I can help out more people online. Um, but I will say when I first started to kind of dive into social media, there was a little bit of guilt because I'm like, dang, I got the credentials to help folks, but then I'm like, I am helping out 2.5 million people online. But I do still enjoy seeing patients, but my time for that is shrinking. It's sad. It's sad. Let me see. Uh, my Amazon, my Amazon wish list has so much stuff on it. Mine does too. And let me talk about this for a second because for me, I have a lot of things on my wish list, but when I look back at it now, like a lot of things that I wanted to buy a couple of months ago, I no longer want those things. So that tells me that all right, Kojo, let me think twice about buying certain things because I a lot of them I'm like wouldn't use, lame, lame, lame. But for whatever reason, when I saw that item, or maybe I watched a YouTube video on a certain thing, and I'm like, I need this thing. This thing is gonna change the game for me. And in that moment, I get like overly fixated on the fact that this camera is gonna change the game for me. This camera is gonna make me post the best possible content. But for me, like it's not like that, right? Like I got an iPhone. This is iPhone 13. I don't need the fanciest of cameras. Like like I got enough. I have enough, uh, you know, equipment to make my videos, right? Not to say I shouldn't get cameras, but I think about these things before I go buy this huge expensive camera because I don't want to waste money on something that I might not need. So sometimes I have that conversation with myself. So I'm giving money to Jeff Bezos. Oh boy, that's funny. Your impact is Andrea. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do think we're making a lot of progress, and that's one thing that I'm grateful for this new community on Facebook because I believe that the engagement here is the best that I've ever seen anywhere. I've never seen this engagement on any of the social media platforms. And I don't want to be like, oh, this is the best or that's the best, but I get like real time feedback from you all, and even if I don't bring your comment onto the screen, like if I can catch something and I think about it, I'll say, "Oh wow, that's a great video idea for tomorrow." Or I'll see somebody talk about, for example, you all say how to talk to my doctor about ADHD. I'm thinking about, okay, how is this skit gonna work? Who do I need to have in the video? Maybe I should have a woman in the video and then do how to talk to your doctor about ADHD and then talk about ADHD women at the same time. So my brain is going off all the time, and that might be uh, an ADHD thing, and I've kind of been able to make that something that is benefiting me, right, and helps me and helps my community out. So these are things that I think about from time to time. Let me see. Visual and responsible. Austin, I appreciate it. I do what I can. I do what I can. Uh, Jeanette, I do this too, where I research a lot of things. I'm like, oh, let me make sure I get this thing right, Heather, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Thank you, Heather Nicole. And my dog, ooh, my dog legit goes with me. Oh, okay, that's a lucky dog, Lindsay. I know your dog is, like all of the dogs in the world, including my dog, are envious of your dog. You know, um, I'm a night out, and I used to watch late night infomercials and get hooked. Now all the ads are every three posts. It's funny how these networks work, right? Um, all right, let me talk about this right here because this is something that I hear a lot from my patients. Nate, this is a really good question, Nate. I gotta give you a love the show. And shout out to Nate in general. Nate's been an OG supporter, at least here on Facebook. Does creativity diminish with medication? What have you heard? I have not seen any like evidence-based, articles that talk about creativity being diminished with medication. But what I think, and I see this a lot with patients who have ADHD, and I also see this a lot with patients who have mood disorders like bipolar, where they'll say that, "Oh, I took this medication and I took this stimulant and it changed my personality," or something like that, right? Or I'm not as creative, or I'm too creative, And I haven't seen any studies that show that your creativity goes down with medication. Um, at least I haven't seen that. But I will say I've had patients with bipolar disorder where I've been giving them medications, right, to help regulate their mood, to help them get sleep, to help them with their thought process. And sometimes they'll say that maybe I'm doing better now. I'm not hearing voices. I'm sleeping, but my creativity is gone, right? Or sometimes people, when you're in a manic episode, the mania is kind of fun because like you're living on the edge, right? It's like, it's a little bit risky. So that little thrill seeking type of component, you get it. So when you maybe give somebody medications, right, and they're stable and they're doing better, they may miss that thrill or they may miss that energy that they use to be so creative. Maybe they stayed up for a couple of days and they did some project that was great, and now their mental health is improved, but they're not able to get into that zone because maybe they relied on their hypomania or mania to get things done. So I'm thinking that that could be like maybe their way of saying that their creativity was stifled, but I'm not sure because I haven't seen evidence-based information that says this medication. Like nowhere online does it say that Adderall kills your mood, desire to be creative, or a mood stabilizer takes away creativity and bipolar disorder. I have not seen that, but I feel like I think I know what you're getting at here. I think I could be wrong, but I think. Um, and Kun says me all the way. Um, and uh, I'm scared to not be me. I work so, respect, and that's why when you're talking with your provider about the game plan, it's important to verbalize these things and say, "Hey, I'm a little bit afraid of this and that," And I think as clinicians, we can do a better job of explaining things, right? Um, and Justice, can ADHD affect the desire, focus, and intimacy? It can, and I've seen some studies and some surveys, that have talked about, ADHD and sexual dysfunction. That could be a whole other live. We talked about ADHD and sex before, but ADHD and sexual dysfunction could be its own. It could be that could be like a show for itself, right? And yeah, I mean, you could be in the middle of doing the Mickey Ficky, right? And then you forget or you zone out, or you maybe like lose interest. And sometimes if these things happen, I think a normal reaction from your partner could be like, oh, am I not enough? Or, like, or are you seeing somebody else or like what's going on here? But I think having the safe space to talk about that this is where having a safe space to talk about it can potentially save your relationship, right? Because as we know with ADHD, so there's arguments with the mood swings. It can start off with you have maybe a loss of desire, right? Or you lose focus. You're in the middle of doing your thing, and then you lose focus, and then the other person's like, "Oh, well, so do you not love me anymore? Are you not turned on by me? Did I um, put on weight? Did I get too skinny? Or am I not enough?" And then if you're not able to verbalize how you feel or have that safe space, that could become an argument, right? So if we know these things, we can save relationships in a sense, right? So I don't think I'm not no Dr. Phil or some type of relationship guru, but I've been surprised by how many people have DM'd me saying things like, "Oh, you saved my relationship" or something like that, and it makes me think I need to do a relationship show. I might need to start bringing on like people, like Q&A. I don't know, like I just get some thoughts in my head sometimes. So potentially, we'll see. Um, let me see. I find myself distracted and making lists. Yeah, Jens, sometimes it's hard to just do one thing, right? Alex, I need to know more about ADHD and sexual dysfunction. I struggle with major ups and major downs in my desire. Yes, Alex, I think this would be a great show topic. I really think so. Maybe I should write that down here. Because I don't know if I wrote that down on my list before, but that would be a great show topic. And as we know, right, sometimes, uh, sometimes having too much of a desire could be an issue, but sometimes having too little of a desire could be an issue too, right? I think it depends on your partner, or your partners or wherever your situation is. If the energies don't match, you could have an issue, right? If the energies don't match, you could have an issue. Shan says it's the Mickey Ficky, right? Mickey Ficky, right? So Mickey Ficky could be like a noun, or Mickey Ficky could be like a verb, right? Like you do the Mickey Ficky, right? That's what two people who are in love do. They do the Mickey Ficky, right? Or this could be a Mickey Ficky water bottle. So Mickey Ficky is a very versatile word, but depending on how I use it, what I'm talking about. Someone says, "Get off me, you lazy lover." Libby, Libby, I hope you don't say that to your. I know you're joking here, so that's why I put this on the screen. But Libby would never say something like this, right? Because I know Libby. Libby's an OG. Libby would never say that. Um, yes, Amanda, I'll definitely maybe I'll bring on a guest and talk about this. Let me see. Emily, I appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, I think that'd be a great topic as well. Uh, da, 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 da. We actually talked about ADHD and hypersexuality in an earlier live. So go check that out. But I don't know if I talked about ADHD and like a low sex drive. I don't know, but I'll go back and look. Nicole, you must be new around here. You're not familiar with the Mickey Ficky. You must be new around here. You must be new around here. But Nicole, I'm happy you're here. Sarah says you pointed out not being diagnosed in 2/3 for most women really makes me feel like I wasn't diagnosed right. Thank you for bringing awareness, Sarah. I feel like I'm fortunate that I get to do this, for y'all and with y'all. So thank you for having me. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate this. How do you remember to set reminders? Whenever I think of something, I just do it. Right? Like if I think that I need to do something, I'm gonna put a reminder to text my housekeeper to see if she can come next week Tuesday. Like that was a situation I had earlier this week, and I did it in time, right? Jen, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And Heather Nicole, it could be right. It could be. I don't want to say like it's a nuanced conversation. You can't just sit here. That's really not me, right? Like regardless of however well I do on social media, I'm still like a board certified mental health professional. So I can't be here and say, oh, ADHD is the reason why you have no sex drive, right? Depression could be causing that. I don't know. I don't know you, right? But I'm just saying these are possible causes. So I just want to clear that up, right? I just want to clear that up. Let me see. Okay, I did answer that. Between the ADHD and my well, Andrea, once you're aware of that, like I don't think that I don't think so. Earlier in the live, I said something like if the energies don't match, it could be an issue. I think it could be an issue too, but like if somebody has like a high sex drive and somebody has like a low sex drive, but you all are aware of the fact that okay, this is a problem, and you all can meet each other in the middle and say, okay, this is what helps or this is what hurts. You all you're in the same team, so you could work it out, right? Look into options like how can we, I feel like if you like any relationship, you have to work really hard at it. Any relationship, an intimate relationship, business relationship, all these things take work. So just being on the same page with your partner or partners or your situation, I think that would be helpful. Let me see. If I get a text response and I figure out I'm doing right, but Lindsay, now that you know this, you can put yourself in a position to not be as affected by this, right? All right. Chris says, "Hey, Chris, how you doing? I'm new to the community, but I'm bipolar. But sometimes I have what I call ADHD tendencies. So yeah, and I think sometimes there is some overlap between bipolar disorder and ADHD. Even though they're two different things, they really are different. But there could be like educational, talking points that you can pick out from each one. So um, nice to meet you, Chris. My name is Kojo. But it's been about an hour now, and it's been a good live. And I'm gonna shut it down so I can hit the gym with the guys and do my thing. I'm on live, bro. You need me? No, we good. We're live, Kwame. Huh? Yeah, you don't come on in. I want to see my knees. Are your knees ashy? Yes. All right, come on in. Come on in. Come on in.
What's good, Coach Live? How y'all doing today, man?
Come on. Oh, is that Zoe?
That's Zoe.
Oh, Mickey.
Good morning, back. How you doing, YouTube? The best doctor out, man.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Come on.
Coolest guy I know, man. Zoe says hi, y'all.
Thank you, Zoe.
Well, shall I leave it with you?
Yeah, I got Zoe.
All right, you guys. Catch y'all later, man. I'm out.
Y'all watching the coolest dude in the world right now.
These guys are wild. I appreciate that
Dr.
boy.
K.
That boys are wild. That boys are wild. Oh, good Zoe right here. Good Zoe.
Dr.
Good Zoe.
K.
What's up?
The one and only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You still gonna go to the gym with me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
All right.
Sounds good. All right. Cute dog. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, I will have a good workout. I got a lift today, so hopefully the workout goes well. But yeah, tomorrow we will be back. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yeah, tomorrow we'll be back, and we'll be. What's wrong with you? Don't lick me. I don't know why dogs like to lick you, and like the dogs will go outside and they'll lick on poop, and they'll lick on asphalt, and they'll come and lick you. You know, and I used to let my dog like get close to me until I saw what you would do. But all right, y'all. So tomorrow we'll be back on live, and once again, thank you for your attention. I appreciate the fact that you all allow me to do this, right, by tuning in. So thank you so much, and I will see you all tomorrow. Quinn, I appreciate that. I'm going to have a really good workout tonight. So, Zoe, make me fidget. Oh, come on, Zoe. I said, do not fall in line. I cannot have my dog falling and people seeing that I dropped my dog. All right, you all take care. I love y'all.